Mike flipped the burgers while I trimmed the fat off a rack of ribs. Backyard full of voices, kids running circles around the patio lights, someone arguing about football like it mattered in June. I looked up because Lauren's laugh cut through the noise, bright, sugar sweet, the kind she used to save for me. She was parked by the cooler with Mike, head tilted, hair over one shoulder, tapping her phone against her hip like it had a heartbeat. I walked over, tongs in hand. They went silent the second I hit the edge of their little bubble. The energy dropped like someone yanked the plug. Mike cleared his throat. "Need a hand at the grill, man? I can jump in." He didn't wait for an answer. He brushed past me like he'd been caught stealing. Lauren's smile evaporated. She set the phone down on the table and scooped ice into a cup like she suddenly cared about hydration. "What's funny?" I asked. "Nothing." She didn't look at me. Inside jokes. She picked up the cup and drifted toward the kitchen. "I'm helping the girls with the salads." I stood there with the tongs and the ribs and the smell of smoke. Inside jokes. Like I hadn't been married to her for 6 years. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have taken the ribs off, got in my truck, and gone home alone. Would have saved months. At the table later, Lauren planted herself across from me, not next to me. She leaned toward Mike to hear him over the music, smiling like he'd solved world peace. When I reached for her knee under the table, I got air. She'd inched her chair away sometime between the corn and the potato salad. She kept checking her phone, lock screen lighting up like a lighthouse. On the drive home, I kept it simple. "Something up?" I asked, hands at 10 and 2. "You were real talkative tonight. Just not with me." She set the phone face down in her lap and watched streetlights cut through the windshield. "Why do you say it like that?" "I was being social. Try it sometime." I did. With a grill. She smirked. "Don't be dramatic. Mike's just funny. You get so tense about nothing." I walked over and conversation died. "Coincidence. You want the play-by-play of every word I say." She shifted, then sighed like she was bored. "You're reading into things. It's not a good look. So there's nothing to talk about." "Exactly." She flipped the phone, checked it, smiled at nothing, put it down again. "Don't start being that guy." I didn't push. I made a note. One thing about notes. If I take one, I use it. The next week, she started sleeping with her phone under her pillow. Screen always face down. If I walked into a room, it found her pocket with no wasted motion. We sat on opposite ends of the couch. If I put on a show, she scrolled. If I turned it off, she sighed, scrolled harder. Friday night, I tried one more time while I rinsed plates. "You're buried in that thing," I said, tapping the faucet off. "We got something to fix, or do you just like the glow?" She placed the phone beside the sink, slow-mo, like I was a dog she didn't want to spook. "You're being insecure, Aaron. It's not attractive." "That's not an answer. It's my phone." She dried her hands, tossed the towel, and leaned on the counter. "I'm allowed to talk to friends." "I didn't say you weren't. I asked what changed." "What changed is you suddenly acting jealous." She lifted her eyebrows. "Kind of lame." I let the dish rack drip. "Not jealous. Observant. There's a difference." She laughed into the cabinet door as she pulled a glass. "If you say so." Then here's me being simple. I wiped the counter. "If we're home together, the phone stays off the table. We don't have to talk about everything. But I'm not doing dinner with a screen." She took a sip and shrugged. "I'll think about it." "You won't," I said. She turned the glass in place, leaving a wet circle. "It's not a rule you get to make." "Sure it is. That's the thing about my rules. They're mine." She stared at me for a long beat like she couldn't decide if it was funny or dangerous. "Okay, big man. You done?" "Almost. I'm off group hangs for a while. If I'm watching Mike do stand-up again, he can sell tickets." "You're ridiculous." She pushed off the counter. "You'll look paranoid if you bail." "I'll look busy." "Which I am." She rolled her eyes and walked out, phone already in her hand. The next 2 weekends, I made myself scarce. Saturday mornings I hit the gym, then the hardware store, then my buddy Tom's garage where he builds old bikes for people who pay too much for rust. I took a side project fixing a busted loading dock gate at the warehouse. Bought a used toolbox, labeled every drawer, changed the combo on our garage keypad, and set up a lockable cabinet for my stuff. I moved my laptop to the office and put a small safe under the desk for documents, titles, savings bonds, the kind of paper that stops arguments before they start. I didn't announce any of it. I just did it. At home, I cut out the background noise. If she wandered in at 11 with some story about girls' night, I didn't play audience. I nodded, brushed my teeth, slept. Breakfast, I brewed coffee, wrote out my schedule on a yellow pad, and left it on the counter out of habit. Then I stopped leaving the pad. It stayed in the office with the door closed. Not a punishment, just less access. She noticed. She also doubled down. Out again, she said one Thursday, leaning in the hall, ready for some kind of contest. I've got work, then Tom's, I said, tying my boots. You could try being home once in a while. You could try wanting me here. She smirked, arms crossed. Such a martyr. Wrong word. I'm just not chasing. Jealous guys always say that. Wrong again. I slid my wallet into my pocket. I'm disciplined. She scoffed, then softened. First illusion of change. She reached out, ran her hand along my shoulder like she remembered how. Hey, don't be mad. I've been stressed. Work. The girls. You know. I'm not mad. We could do dinner tomorrow. Your pick. She tried a smile she used to mean. Tomorrow I'm out, I said. Saturday, we can grab a burger. She blinked. You're busy tomorrow? I am now. Her hand dropped. She watched me head to the garage, and I could feel it. Calculation replacing charm. Saturday morning, she was cordial. Made eggs. Put her phone on the charger in the other room in a way that was meant to be seen. She asked about the dock gate like she cared about steel rollers. Glad you remember what I do, I said. I always do. She touched my wrist. Sorry, okay? Noted. We hit a burger place near the river. She asked about my mom, about Tom's bike projects, about the new foreman at the warehouse. She kept her hands on the table, palms up, like she'd read a pamphlet on empathy. For an hour, I thought maybe she'd pulled herself back from the edge. On the ride home, she repeated, I missed this, like a password. Sunday, she vanished by noon with a quick, Hannah needs me. She returned at midnight, hair done, perfume new, eyes sparkling from something that wasn't errands. Lose track of time. I asked, shutting my laptop. Don't start. I'm just asking. Girls. Wine. You know. She kicked off her shoes. I don't have to report. You don't, I said, standing. But I adjust. To what? To you being elsewhere. She paused, a small flinch, then shrugged. Good night. That week, she multiplied it. Late nights layered on late nights. She skipped dinner 2 times, then 4. She was constantly with Lindsay, then with Tori, then with nobody you know. When I asked once in the kitchen, she laughed into her coffee mug. You're obsessed with my schedule, she said. I used to be part of it, and I used to have patience. She rinsed the mug. We change. I did, I agreed. Credit for noticing. She set the mug down. You think ignoring me will make me chase? No, I said. I think it makes my life calmer. She rolled her eyes. Such a sad strategy. It's not a strategy. It's boundaries. You don't like them because they work. Cute. I stepped past her, and she muttered just loud enough. You're not exactly a prize lately. Good thing I don't sell myself. I shot back without looking. She laughed like I'd delivered a line from a show she hated. At Tom's on Wednesday, he clanged a wrench into his palm and raised an eyebrow. You and Lauren okay? We're efficient roommates, I said. He grunted. That why you reorganized your whole garage like a guy about to move out? I'm not moving. Just putting things where I can find them. You always do that when you're about to make a call. Maybe. He looked at me for a beat, then nodded. You're not the dude who fights for the window seat. You're the dude who buys another car. I buy my piece, I said. Same thing. Friday brought round 2 of her softening. She came home with takeout from my favorite deli, set the table, and lit a candle like we were auditioning for a calendar. What's the occasion? I asked, washing my hands. You, she said, big smile. You've been distant. I didn't like it. I didn't ask for feedback. You're not easy when you're like this. Like what? Cold. Judgy. It makes me want to be anywhere else. That's convenient, I said. You are. She inhaled, let it go slowly. Can we not do this tonight? I brought dinner. Let's just eat. We did. She asked me to show her the lockable cabinet in the garage. She admired how I'd labeled the drawers. She leaned against my workbench like she was proud of me. She placed a hand on my chest and tried a kiss that meant peace. I gave her a light one back and ended it early. Tomorrow I've got an early run, I said, stepping away. She smiled like she hadn't expected it and didn't like the surprise. Right? Your schedule. Yours too, apparently. She set her fork down, folded her napkin like we were in a nice place, and the warmth evaporated. You know, it's exhausting when a man can't handle a woman with a life. Handle? I shook my head. You're not a hurricane. You're a calendar. I can read. You're insecure. And you're predictable. She stood. I'm going to bed. Night. The following week, she joined a networking happy hour on Tuesday and disappeared till almost 1. My calls went unanswered. When she walked in, she dropped her purse like she'd done cardio. Don't even start, she said, kicking the door shut. I wasn't. You were about to. I can feel it. You feel guilt and confuse it with my face. She froze, then scoffed. Wow, aren't you charming? Not trying to be. Wednesday morning, I put on a clean shirt and drove to a quiet strip mall where the carpet store had died. The office at the end had a thumb-sized sign with the letters PI and a last name you could miss if you blinked. Guy named Rivas ran it. Yes, that Rivas. The one who found inventory that walked away from our warehouse 2 years back, half of it hidden under a tarp in a manager's cousin's garage. He kept receipts the way surgeons keep clean hands. He listened while I laid it out. Phone under the pillow, cold at home, loud in public, a new hobby of being anywhere but here. He didn't ask dumb questions. How far are you willing to look, he asked. Enough to stop asking myself. He nodded. You want a daily feed or a package? A package. 2 to 3 weeks standard. Movement, patterns, contacts. He tapped a legal pad with a dull pencil. Will you look at photos if there are any? Show me what you find. I won't shoot the messenger. He slid a form across the desk. I filled it out. Wrote a check. He didn't shake my hand like we were buddies. He just said, I'll be discreet, and meant it. On the way back, I stopped for a box. Not bags. A box. I put it in my trunk. At home, I took a measuring tape to the hall closet and moved Lauren's extra coats to her side. I put my spare work clothes into a clear bin labeled with my handwriting. The bedroom stayed clean and neutral. My drawers had my things, nothing of hers. I stopped making the bed for both of us. I pulled back my side, slept, and left it as is. A quiet line down the middle of the quilt, like a chalk mark on a parking space. The first report from Rivas was a text. Confirmed schedule Tuesday through Thursday. He didn't say more. I didn't ask. I went to work, closed my office door, and did numbers, then supervised a delivery. My guys called me sir, more that week than usual. Maybe it was the way I walked. Maybe it was nothing. Lauren noticed the colder house and tried warmth again, second illusion. She bought tickets to a comedy night, tossed them on the counter like bait. Friday, she said, breezy. Let's get out. I'm already out Friday, I said, checking a receipt. For what? Tom needs a second pair of hands with a brake line. She blinked like I'd spoken a new language. A brake line. On a bike. So this is what we do now? You schedule over me. I schedule for me. You can schedule over me if you want. You're good at it. She leaned in, voice low. Aaron, don't be petty. I'm allergic to petty. This is logistics. This is punishment. No, I said, tucking the receipt into the drawer. It's me not standing in the rain. She stared, then put her nails to the counter, tapping, thinking. Fine, she said. I'll take Hannah. Do that. Friday, she dressed better than comedy deserved and left smelling like she'd been dipped in sugar. I changed into old jeans and crawled under a bike with Tom, tightened a line, drank a soda, and slept like a man who picked his own hours. 2 more weeks. 2 more girls' nights, a late meeting, and one, I crashed at Tori's, don't be dramatic. I didn't argue. I put gas in my truck, cleaned my apartment folder, set aside cash in an envelope labeled Reset, and added the garage keypad change to a short list titled Done. I expanded the lockbox list to include the spare title for Lauren's car because I didn't like hunting for it in a panic later. She wouldn't notice. She never looked where I stored paperwork. Then came the package. Rivas called me early on a Tuesday. You want to come by? No, I said. Email. Got it. He sent a zip file with the plainest name possible. Inside were timestamps, summaries, and photos. Not bedroom stuff. He wasn't that guy. But close enough to kill denial. Lauren at a bistro with Mike one Thursday, hand on his arm, smiling like he'd invented humor. Lauren with Jake the next week, Same place, different corner, a handhold across the table like prom. Lauren outside atop his spot with Chris, their hug not friendly, her head tucked like she belonged to him. Each set had dates, addresses, and who paid on the check. There were 3 more nights where she hovered near one of them at a neighborhood event and ghosted me, going home in a different car so I could sleep. The girls didn't appear in any of it. I stared until my eyes hurt. Then I called an old contact, not to charge into a fight, not to make a scene, but to map the exit. He asked for details and I sent the clean set, dates, pictures, locations. He said, "This is enough," and I said, "Good." He told me what to collect and what to avoid. I already had most of it. Numbers are numbers. Patterns are patterns. Feelings are extra credit. I shut down my computer, told the foreman I had to run an errand off-site, and drove home while the sun still had hours left. I wanted to be there when she came in. If she came in, she beat me to it. The house smelled like candles and grocery store flowers. Voices came from the living room, Lauren's and 2 others. I recognized them before I turned the corner, Hannah and Lindsay. Top shelf friends, flagship bridesmaids, weekly wine partners. The same women whose husbands were in Rivas's file. Lauren glanced up and saw me. She did a little smirk that used to be cute when we were 20-something and dumb. Early, she said. "You forget your clock?" "Lucky day," I said, kicking my shoes off, slipping my keys into the bowl. "You're here. Honestly, I thought I might miss you." She arched a brow, leaned back into the couch. "One day you will. There's a line of men who'd be happy to pick up where you fumble. So know your place." Hannah and Lindsay stiffened, then forced laughs like it was a joke. They thought that was banter. I let Lauren's line hang in the air. I sat on the arm of a chair and started my engine. "Mike," I said calmly. "Jake. Chris. I know about them." Silence. The word "no" landed like a brick through glass. Lauren went still, the color draining in stages. Hannah turned slowly, eyes clicking from me to Lauren and back like a metronome that had lost rhythm. "What?" Lindsay asked, voice thin. "What do our husbands have to do with anything?" I pulled my phone from my pocket and tapped the folder. Dates. Places. Handholding. Hugs. Your patio with the string lights, actually. A couple of different corners of a certain bistro. I held the screen out to Hannah first. "Start here." Hannah took it like it was hot. She swiped once and made a sound I've never heard her make. Lindsay leaned in, grabbed the phone, swiped again, stopped, swiped again. She looked at Lauren like she was seeing a stranger. "How could you?" Lindsay said, not loud, not soft. Her mouth trembled like she was searching for new words and found none. Lauren finally spoke. This is out of context." "Looks pretty in context on a calendar," I said. Hannah shoved the phone back at me with a shaking hand. "That's my husband." "I know," I said. "You smiled at my kids on Sunday," Lindsay whispered. "You brought muffins." Lauren's chin went up, then down, then nowhere. She stared at me like I'd set a trap. "Why would you do this? Why would you bring them into?" "Because you brought them in," I said. "I'm just turning on the light." Hannah stood, hands clenched at her sides. Not a dramatic TV thing, just a human being trying to hold on to gravity. "You sat in my kitchen and told me my marriage would be okay," she said. "You held my hand." Lauren opened her mouth, closed it. Her eyes glossed. "I messed up." Lindsay cut her off. "Messed up? With my husband? With her husband? How many times?" She didn't wait for an answer. "You're not my friend." Hannah grabbed her bag, nearly ripped the strap. "Everybody's going to hear about this. Everyone." She looked at me. "Thank you," she said, not like gratitude, but like confirmation. To Lauren, "Don't come near me. Don't text. Don't show up." She stormed past me, slammed the door so hard the pictures rattled. Lindsay stayed one more beat, like she was deciding whether to throw something. She settled on words. "You broke every line," she said to Lauren. Then she left too, door shaking its hinges one more time. The house went quiet except for the hum of the fridge. Lauren stood in the middle of our living room like someone had cleared the furniture while she was sleeping. She looked at me with tears she hadn't planned on showing me. "Why would you do that?" she asked. We could have just ended it." "We are ending it," I said. "I already put the paperwork in motion. I just made sure the picture was complete." She laughed once, a short cough of disbelief. "You humiliated me." "You humiliated yourself," I said, even, not cruel. I just put names to your calendar. She shook her head, tears now. Please, she said. Please don't do this. I was stupid. I got lost. I can fix it. You're not a leaky faucet, I said. You're a decision. I'll change, she said. I'll be perfect. I'll do anything. You'll be yourself, I said. That's the only guarantee. She swallowed, desperation showing up late to a party already over. Don't throw me out. I don't have. You have plenty, I said. Just not me. I pointed to the hallway. Grab a bag. I won't watch. She didn't move. Her voice dropped, small. They'll all know. They already do, I said. They were here. She bit her lip to stop it from shaking. I thought I was safe, she whispered. I know, I said. That was the plan. She looked up then, hurt curdling into a quick spike of anger. You wanted to hurt me. I wanted to end the game, I said. Cleanly. No secret leftovers. No chances to spin it. You didn't have to torch everything. I nodded. You're right. I didn't have to. I chose to be clear. I got the box from the hall closet, the one I'd put in my trunk 2 weeks ago, now back on a shelf because I like efficiency. I set it on the ottoman. She stared at it. Her shoulders dropped. She started moving. It took 15 minutes. She packed clothes, her makeup bag, the charger she never shared, the pair of shoes she hid from our budget last spring. I watched without watching, stood in the doorway, arms crossed, a man guarding the last 10 feet of his house. She tried one more time at the door, hand on the knob. Can I come back to get the rest? She asked, voice raw. I'll have it moved for you, I said. To where? To wherever you're staying, I said. Text me an address. One time. She fumbled with her keys and gave up, pulled her phone instead. Aaron, she said. I'm sorry. I'm not, I said. I'm done. She swallowed. Who are you going to tell? No one. They'll do that for me. She flinched like that hurt worse. You were supposed to love me. I did, I said. Enough to not let this version of you camp in my house. She opened the door. She paused on the threshold. You'll be alone, she said, almost hopeful. I'll be quiet, I corrected. There's a difference. She left. The door shut. The hum of the fridge came back like a punctuation mark. I didn't toast anything. I didn't call Tom to brag. I wiped the counter because that's what you do when a kitchen has seen too much. I texted Rivas one word. Received. I put the folder into my safe, not because I planned to use it again, but because facts belong in a drawer, not floating in a cloud where they become somebody else's problem. The next morning I woke up, made coffee, and went for a run. Halfway through, I saw Mike in his driveway, house shoes, robe. He looked like he'd slept on the couch he pretends not to own. He opened his mouth like he had an explanation ready. I gave him nothing. He waved a hand half a foot. I looked past him like he was a bird on a wire. That was my public line. He wasn't worth words. 2 days later, my phone blew up with people who don't blow up phones. A couple from the neighborhood wanted to know if I was okay. Another guy sent a "you don't deserve this" text that read like it had been rehearsed in front of a mirror. I replied to the ones that mattered. I'm good. That's it. Lauren texted an address across town. I forwarded it to a delivery service I use for work with a note. 2 boxes, clothing, no furniture. I paid in advance and tipped double. They sent me a picture of the boxes on a small porch with a dead plant next to a rubber welcome mat. I didn't zoom in. I didn't ask who lived there. It wasn't my business. People asked me if I felt satisfied. That's not the word. I felt calm. A thing had happened. I had responded. The map was updated. I sold nothing. I kept the house because I'd paid for it and mowed the strip of lawn at 6 a.m. on Saturdays when the neighbor pretended he didn't hear me. I moved my stuff into the master, took back the space, and hung one framed map from a trip we took before she started upgrading her pity for me. The guest room stayed ready for a friend. Tom crashed there once after a late night at the garage. He looked at the empty dresser and said, "Feels clean in here." I like clean, I said. Work got simpler. With my head quiet. The numbers lined up like someone had turned them to face the same direction. I stopped going to any group thing that felt like a stage. I started saying yes to fishing with my brother again. Sundays, I had coffee with my neighbor who fought weeds like they owed him money. He told me stories about his first marriage that made me feel like I'd read the sequel before it hit paperback. A month in, a woman named Claire came into Tom's garage to pick up a bike her father left her. She was older than the girls Lauren chased approval from, smarter face, no fake sweetness. She watched me adjust the height on her seat and said, "You actually know what you're doing." "I fake it well," I said. She laughed. "Not bright, not sugar, just true." "You free next Saturday?" she asked, practical, like she was inviting me to move a couch. "Depends on the weather," I said, grinning. We met for coffee. No performance. She didn't bury herself in a phone. We talked about schedules like adults and kept it simple. I didn't post a picture. I didn't send a group text. This wasn't a show. Now and then I hear Lauren's name like a rumor. She moved 2 counties over, took an apartment near a coworker, joined some club that posts too many photos. I guess she learned to smile by herself. I guess her circle shrank because circles do that when you light them on fire. I don't ask anyone for updates. I don't need the latest episode. The season ended for me the night she opened the door with a bag in her hand and tears she couldn't sell me. A couple weeks after that night, I found a card on my porch. No name on the front, just my address and handwriting I recognized. Inside, "I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're happy." I set it on the counter, then slid it into my safe. People think safes are for valuables. They're for closure. Sometimes I catch myself looking across the yard at nothing and thinking of that grill night. Mike's nervous jumped to the flames. Lauren's smile dying on cue. I used to wonder what their conversation was about. Not anymore. Whatever it wasn't about me. And that's fine. I've got better things to do than chase subtext. What mattered was what I did next. I didn't shout. I didn't plead. I didn't bargain. I put my name back on my own calendar. I took 3 steps. I made a boundary. I checked a fact, and I closed a door. In my world, that's called being a man. If I had to pick one moment that felt like justice, it was the way Lauren looked at the door as she left. Not hate. Not even shock. It was recognition. That I wasn't the guy she could keep on the shelf while she practiced being adored. That whatever place she thought I had in her life, it had a lock on it, and I had the key. People love stories where someone begs for one more chance and then magically earns it. This isn't that kind of story. This is a story where the grown-up picks up his tools, tightens what he can, throws out what's cracked, and leaves the false parts at the curb where they belong. The truck comes by at dawn and carries it away. You don't chase it down the street. You wave from the driveway, go inside, and make coffee. The last words I said to her that night were simple. She was pleading, trying to fit every promise into 30 seconds, offering perfection like a subscription you cancel next month. She said, "Please let me fix it." And I told her, calm and flat, "I don't live in repair mode." Door, boxes, quiet. That's the ending. The epilogue? Fine. The warehouse runs smoother with me not trying to be everybody's dad. Tom and I started selling 2 bikes a month on the side. It pays for better tools and a grill that doesn't flare up. I bought a used pickup that starts on the first turn every time. The house is mine from doormat to attic. The office door stays open now because there are no secrets in a room I pay for. Claire comes by on Sundays sometimes. She walks straight through the kitchen to the patio, looks at my backyard, and says, "You keep it simple." I like that. She brings a pie that's never the same kind twice. We don't post about it. That's how I like it. I keep Mike, Jake, and Chris in the same file in my head. A file labeled, "Not my problem." Their wives did their own cleaning. From what I hear in the grocery store line, none of those guys enjoyed their sudden fame. Actions meet consequences. I didn't have to raise my voice or break anything. I just had to choose to stop being the spare tire in my own life. That's my confession, if you need it to be called that. Not guilt, just a record. The moment I stopped accepting cheap respect and started charging full price. If you ever find yourself standing at a grill while your life laughs 10 feet away, do yourself a favor. Put down the tongs, make a note, and use it. You don't need to win an argument. You need to make a move. I did, and I slept fine.